Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Nick Slavic. I'm the proprietor of the Nick Slavic Painting and Restoration Company. I'm also the host of this show, Ask a Painter Live. It's a weekly live Facebook group, show where I use my over 2 decades of experience as an entrepreneur and a craftsperson to answer any of your questions. Now, for homeowners, this is the largest group of contractors, professional contractors, where you can just freely ask any question you want. What kind of primer? What kind of brush? What kind of paint should I use? We're all here to help. And contractors, you know what you're here for. So we can talk marketing, which we will do later, accounting, entrepreneurship, apprenticeship, coding science, all that good stuff. So today I am coming to you live early because we have a big announcement today. I am headed to Brazil to talk with other painters. We have some international workshops going. We have some lectures going on. I'll be touring Brazil for the next week with a friend of mine, Ronnie, who is my friend and interpreter. Bom dia, Mr. Batista. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to a place called Senai. Senai is the 8th largest technical institute in the world, and they teach painters how to paint. We do not really have technical schools in the United States that teach people how to paint. Brazil does. So I'm going down there. I'm bringing a whole bunch of tools and equipment specific to my company to show them some of the things that I do. I want to go down there. I'm bringing my paint clothes, and I'm going to immerse myself in their culture and in their work for a week, and hopefully I can learn something back from them too, which I'm really looking forward to that exchange. So we have a huge labor imbalance in this country. They have a dearth of tools. They can't get what we can get. So I'm hoping that in some small way we can all see if we can do something for each other. So today we're going to have the PDCA contractor question of the week. It has to do with winter's coming. What are you preparing for winter? And then this table right here, this handmade oak table, I made a whole bunch of years ago from actually wood taken from the house right across the street here. This is solid oak that the house was framed with. The guy was throwing it away. I made a table. I'm going to do a simple refinish for you right here live. And I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite kind of sneaky products when I do tabletops, bar tops, things like that. So number one, you can go look on social media there, but we have some marketing info out there for you guys. Like I said, later this afternoon I will be flying to Brazil. It's going to be such a blast. So while I'm in Brazil, everybody who's around me, I'll be in and out of Sao Paulo, kind of going to trade schools and going to manufacturing plants, things like that. Definitely let me know when you're around there, and I'll be around. So it's going to be an absolute blast. Also, PDCA Contractor Question of the Week. If you guys haven't seen this yet, Facebook and Instagram, you can get on there, check it out. The PDCA, the Painting and Decorating Contractors of America, is the biggest, the best. They have all the good contractors in North America there. Everything that's really ever happened in my business in the last 2 to 3 years has happened since meeting the awesome people who are involved with that. So they send me a question of the week for contractors. This week is, what steps are you taking to prepare for the winter season for your business? So number one, today we actually just retooled as a company. We had a big production meeting with everybody in the company there. We just got done with that. We usually have them on Monday mornings. We call them our war room meetings. Today we're having it now because I will not be here next week. And we basically lined out 2 to 3 weeks of work that I have planned for everybody, and my wishes and my expectations for the next week while I'm gone. Part of this is basically today or yesterday, we basically stopped doing exteriors and are now solely doing interiors for the next 6 to 7 months because of the weather here. So it's going to be a very, very interesting sort of transition for my people. So basically we go from like a 5-tote system to a 3-tote system for everybody. We have bought enough vans this year, and we have repositioned all of them where every crew has their own van and their own tools now. Before we used to swap out. We used to do kind of bus stop sort of things where people would drop each other off. Now we're good to go with all that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh yeah, I basically lined out, I make a lot of promises to my clients for our interior work. Number one, we're sort of a white glove service. Not that we cater to rich people, but we just do a lot of simple things that contractors don't do. So we show up on time, we do what we say we're going to do, we clean up after each other, we move furniture, we help people out, we vacuum, we sweep, we dust, even behind the furniture, things like that. We do a lot of those little things that are barriers to entry, for a lot of people to get painting done. So I basically reiterate all the time to my people. I printed off the sheet that I give to all my clients. I handed it to all of them and basically said, here's all the promises I'm making, people. Robbie Smith, good morning, sir. This is the promises I make to all my clients. I want to make sure that you guys not only do this, but exceed it in some way there. So that's sort of my goal with all that. So basically getting my people now in the mindset of, not slowing down, but being a little more intricate with their work and realizing that people are trusting us with their homes. And a lot of times they leave for the day and we set all our people loose on the house. So probably the third biggest thing I do is I started my marketing effort. So in the past, I've looked at when we need work the most. The jobs tend to be smaller in the winter. Giuliano, my good friend, thank you for watching, sir. Hopefully we can connect down in Brazil there. So I want to, I've realized that, it's mainly the 3 or 4 months in the middle of winter that we actually need to produce more work that naturally just comes in through my standard marketing efforts. So really, I actively market maybe only about 4 months a year. Large component is Google AdWords, Facebook, obviously, and Instagram is a big thing. I have a newspaper ad still here. Every time I think about getting rid of it, people still call me on it, especially for apprentices, oddly enough. You wouldn't think that 18 to 22-year-old people were finding my ads in newspapers, but they are. And every time I think about pulling my ad out, another person calls for something. So yes, we will be doing that. Also, another big thing for me is my goal by the end of the year is to have a formal production manager in place. So they can kind of run interference between the clients, the crew, and me. So that's going to be another thing that I'm really preparing for winter. I want to suss that roll out, round it out, make sure that person knows what they're doing, and then we can up the client service even more, because I try to take care of my people the best I can, but as we grow, I just have less time for them. My people take care of them, but if we can have sort of a client liaison there to basically be their concierge service. What can we do for you? You're giving us your house for how many days? How can we make this the best we need here? So let's see what Nick, I started marketing on LinkedIn, and shockingly, it's been a great tool. PM me and I'll explain. I would love to. LinkedIn is something that I'm on and I browse through once in a while. It's completely underutilized here. So Robbie, I'd love to hear how you do it and then what your experience is too. So maybe we'll connect here and do that. So Palmer, that's my van guy, a good friend of mine. Okay, so on to the table. If you guys have any more questions about the winter marketing sort of thing, certainly let me know. Chime in here. Any questions that you have, just put in below. Otherwise, we are going to get to this table. So here's my standard process. This table, solid oak, it's actually 2" by 4". When people say 2 by 4, they really mean 1.5" by 3.5 inches, give or take. This house across the street from me is about 10 or 20 years older than mine. Mine's 100 years old. It was framed with solid oak, 2" by 4" solid oak. They had some water issues in their attic. He ripped out all the framing. I saw this pile of wood outside and I was a little intrigued, and the first thing he said to me was, I cannot get a nail or a screw in it, and my eyebrows just went up like, oh yeah, that's good stuff now. So the whole pile of wood was standing out there. They're all 7 or 8 feet long, some of them 9 feet long, and I milled them all down into lumber. I glued them all together. I made real breadboard ends here. So I made a mortise and a tenon, and I actually inserted a tenon from the table into that to keep everything stable and flat. And this table has not had a crack, a warp, a move in, I don't know how long it's been. I want to say somewhere between 6 and 8 years. I'm not sure though, but we have raised all our kids on this. We've eaten all our meals on it. My kids are crazy people. We do all our art projects here. They're slamming forks and knives into it, and it has held up wonderfully. Now, the only place where you notice wear and tear is right where we slide you can see the lighter spots here where the finish is still intact, but it's getting a little dry, getting a little used up. That's where we slide all the serving dishes and things for our meals. Initially, when I did this table, I did about, I want to say 4, it was probably more like 5 or 6 coats of Minwax Antique Oil Finish. Now, this is a super sneaky product. It's made to be like a wiping varnish where you wipe it on real thin and then wipe it off in a little bit. It's supposed to give a nice low luster, and from that and from the can, you think it's like this sort of homeowner-y sort of product. I actually flood the table with this stuff. I brush it on to even it out, and then I leave it. I don't wipe it off, and it dries to a high gloss, a little bit muted. after that, and it is hard as a rock. Seriously, there are some two-part stuff, bar top finishes that are not as hard as this. So this is just this super sneaky product. What I'm going to do today is I brought the Festool back with me today. I'm going to buff it real quick to make sure there's nothing on the top here. We're going to microfiber it off. This is just a microfiber with soaked in water and then wrung out all the way so it's barely wet to the touch. You don't want to leave any water residue. We are going to flood it on. We are also going to be using a little bit of Japan dryer in this. For my family's sake, I want it to dry a little quicker so my cats don't jump on it or my kids don't grab it. We're going to mix it up in this jar and then we will smooth it out with this. So bear with me, guys. I'm going to give this a quick buff. We're going to tack rag it off and we're going to get finishing this table right in front of you. So hang out. And certainly while you guys are watching, you can chime in with any questions. I'll check in again here. We can get to it. I'll set this guy in the ground here. All right. Okay, so we're going to tack rag this guy off now, and I'll get to your guys' questions in just a second here. I'll be fairly methodical with this to get all the dust off. And if you wrung this rag out enough, there should be almost no water residue left on this, because you don't want it to bead up. If it beads up, it'll carry that little bit of wax or sanding powder from the finish, and it'll get stuck in the actual beads of water. And especially when you're doing a clear finish, that will affect the aesthetics of it and certainly the adhesion of it. There we go. tack ragged off. All right, now for some finish here. I'll kind of walk you guys through what I'm doing here. So, all right, we have Minwax antique oil. Dump this guy in here. So it's going to be fun. In Brazil, I got about a day to acclimatize down there, a little bit of a time change, all that good stuff. And then basically what I'll be doing for an entire week is we'll be doing some demonstrations. We'll be talking to paint companies and equipment companies down there, talking about specific things to the United States and Brazil. We'll be doing a bunch of demonstrations down there as well. So the whole bunch of painters will be coming down there to Sinai, and we'll be demonstrating mostly airless spray technology. And then in the evenings, we'll be doing lectures, and I prepared a big PowerPoint presentation about kind of what it's like to work here, the history of my life, things like that. And it's going to be great, and I can't wait to learn from all the pintors down there. So Japan dryer, usually 2 to 4 ounces a gallon. We're just going to put half a cap or so in here just to speed up drying in here so we don't get dusty, because this is a long oil. There we go. Cap that guy off. Just give it a couple of these here. And what's funny is that people always say, you know, don't shake varnishes, don't stir them up, don't do other stuff. But I've always taken all of my alkyds, all my oil varnishes, things like that, polyurethanes. I've had them all shaken at the paint store, sometimes multiple times, because they settle out. I like satin, so there's a bunch of flattening agent in there, and everybody's just aghast. Oh my God, you shake all that stuff, but I've never had a problem with bubbles at all with that stuff. So, okay. All right, we'll get to it here. We're gonna flood it on. I'm gonna even it out with a brush. I have a 2.5 inch hog bristle brush here. That'll hold the finish nicely. Maybe I'll check on some questions here, but let's see what we got for questions before we start finishing here. Once I start, I don't want to stop there. Dan Skluzacic, have you tried the oil finish system by Festool yet? I have not. I'd be very interested though. Let's see what else we got here. Any other questions? And then I'm going to get going here on finishing. Oh, Sean Comerford, how's it going, buddy? Glad to see you're in there. There are a lot of divots there, Nick. Not a completely flat surface. Doesn't matter. Nope, absolutely not. This is what you would probably call common oak. It's got a lot of divots, a lot of personality in it. That's sort of what makes it kind of cool. It shows almost no wear and tear from it did 6 or 8 years ago. If this was a perfectly flat mahogany top, it would look horrible right now with all my kids destroying it. So the good thing is this is made for a young family, things like that. There's actually some really, really big divots. I'll see if I can show you. I filled them with epoxy. They were so big. There's one right here. You can see I filled that one with epoxy. This is a really cool one right here. I filled this guy with epoxy too. That was a big knot hole. It was like a through and through all the way through. Yeah, so that's what I did. Oh, I think Guillermo's on there. Guillermo. I see him popping up there. Let's see what else we got here. Waiting for the cat to jump on the table. Yeah, me too. Hopefully they know its place here. So, Guillermo, good to see you, my friend. Hopefully we can meet down in Brazil here. Okay, so I'm going to put a little finish on here. So I will do the edges mostly by brush because I don't want to get a whole bunch of drips on the floor here. But then we'll flood it on top, even it out, and then we'll let it settle. And this is a fairly thin product, but it builds an amazing coat. What I did the first time was I built up somewhere between 4 and 6 coats. And then I knocked it back with wax and steel wool years and years and years ago. And from continuous, that sort of gave it like this low lustery satin kind of finish. And that's not anything earth shattering. That's just a standard sort of antique finishing process if you want to dull down a gloss oil. And over tons and tons of years of cleaning and use, the wax has definitely disappeared. It probably disappeared in the first month or two. So we won't have any adhesion issues with this. This will just kind of bring some luster back to the wood, give it another wear coat. Because what you don't want to do with this stuff, and usually when I get the call to repair tables and things, it's when things have been worn through and then the wood starts turning gray. And then it's tough because you've got to brighten it again. So a nice even coat of oil, it just goes on there super, super slick. So satisfying. There are a few things I like better than finishing wood like this. And this stuff is so forgiving. It's got tons and tons of open time. And for anybody who's ever used kind of traditional oils, or as close to traditional oils as we can get, you understand that even if you have a little dust on surfaces, it really eats that dust up. It'll soak it in there into the finish, and then you can buff it out with a used up sanding block or a piece of sanding paper too. Especially it's satisfying to go over a sealed surface too. You basically, adding a layer of sunblock, give or take. Nice wear layer, so when my crazy kids get after this thing again with their art projects and their forks and knives, it's just got another wear layer on it. You can just see it levels out just insanely beautifully. So I wish I understood a little more about this product. I've contacted companies before trying to figure out, what exactly this stuff is. It reminds me of the old traditional oil varnishes. I think I've been around just long enough to still have access to a lot of those old linseed oil varnishes, and I mean, this stuff is just a phenomenal product. It goes on easy, it builds a nice coat, it's open long enough to level out, it finishes with a nice luster. It reminds me a lot of those. So this must be sort of almost like a throwback material. And I'm taking plenty of care to fill in all these little divots here again, seal them up. Oh, it just goes on perfectly here. So I have flying to Atlanta today first, and then I will be headed to Sao Paulo. I think it's about 11 or 12 hour flight from Atlanta to Sao Paulo, so that'll be interesting. I usually get a little antsy. For the people who know me, I don't usually sit still very long. This is going to be a very interesting sort of trial. But I came prepared with tons of books, podcasts, so I should be able to keep busy. And I cannot wait to get down there and start meeting all these people that I've been corresponding with over the last year or two. So an interesting thing is that, one of the biggest painters boards in the United States, and mainly the world too, or at least one that we recognize here, has maybe 16,000, 17,000 members. And down there, they have boards with hundreds of thousands of painters as parts of them. And they are super connected with technology. And arguably, they love this trade and this craft more than we do. Or at least as much as we do. And their enthusiasm is kind of unrivaled. It's a really amazing thing to watch. So, yeah, there we go. Perfectly wet still. You can work it around. I'm going to cap this guy up. We'll see if we got any last questions. And then, if not, we will call it. Sean Comerford needed to tour the UK. I would love to. I would absolutely love to. Ronnie. Oh, Ronnie is my friend and interpreter who will be spending the entire week with me down there and making sure that whatever I say gets translated well. We used to apply with a roller and then finish with a good quality paintbrush. Absolutely, another good way there. Yeah, Ronnie, you thought I'd be ready for the trip. I am definitely ready. I have one carry-on suitcase full of just painting clothes and tools. Joe Elmore. Hey Nick, if that was newly stained, would you still use a product like this? Would this coating prevent scratching? Yes, 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 yes. So I used this product when it was brand new. This is phenomenal. I mean, seriously, if you guys have never used it, yes, it's got a weird sort of labeling. It doesn't really let on to how good the product is. Try it sometime, guys. It is a phenomenal product, and it definitely prevents scratching. I mean, this table has seen more abuse than just about any table. I mean, the typical fingernail polishing where they dump fingernail polish on it. There's been art projects. There's been Play-Doh shoved into every orifice of this thing. Knives, forks, spoons, toys, G.I. Joes, Legos, you name it. And this thing, not only is the wood super hard, but the finish is just phenomenal. So, Ronnie, my friend, we will see you in about a day here after a day of travel. Oh, Sean Comfort, I'm cutting in walls while holding my phone. And Sean, you had a really interesting post this week about possibly being a little frustrated. I would love to follow up with you on that and see how's everything going here. Oh, the Wayne Hutchinson and David Copeland. Minwax Antique Oil Finish. So, I don't know. I've been using this stuff for 10 years, and I don't know. I've never really heard anybody mention it before. I just get it at my Ace Hardware or a home center, and it's just this super sneaky product. It levels out just beautifully, and I'll give you guys one last little tour of this guy here, so you can see it's just phenomenal. You can see nice thick coat. Levels out beautifully. See your own reflection in it. Beautiful, beautiful finish. All right, folks, that's it for me. I will be in Brazil all next week. And now I'm off to school conferences with my kids. So I'm taking the morning off here. All my crews are out and about doing the Lord's work, and then I will be off, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Look for plenty of posts, pictures, live videos. We'll be doing some live events with GATEP, the big group down in Brazil, the painters group, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So thanks, everybody. Thank you to the PDCA for being a big supporter of all this. That makes a lot of stuff like this happen. The Painting and Decorating Contractors of America. Have a good weekend. We'll see you guys next week.